Now, 2020 will be remembered for its challenges, but there was also cause for hope this year. The historic Abraham Accords between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and then Sudan marked the first such agreements between Arab states and Israel since 1994. The leaders of the UAE took the courageous first step in a region where support for Israel can often amount to a death sentence. Among them was Ambassador Yousef Al Otaiba, the Emirates representative in Washington. Please welcome our friend Sander Gerber to lead our discussion with Ambassador Otaiba.
Thank you, David. And now for the Algemeiner J100 dinner, we have a very special guest that we're tremendously honored to have join us, Ambassador Al Otaiba, the architect of the Abraham Accord. Maybe you can tell me, tell us, please, why this peace agreement took a courage that, frankly, others weren't able to accomplish.
Thank you, Sander. Thank you for having me. Thank you for hosting me tonight. And thank you for recognizing that this decision took a lot of courage. On a good day, on a day where everything's working perfectly, this decision is not easy. Normalizing with Israel in the face of the conventional wisdom, that is, we must have progress on the Palestinian track first, is not an easy decision. And there's a reason there hasn't been a peace agreement with Israel for the last 26 years, is because we were stuck in a pattern of thinking where we needed to make progress on the Palestinian track first. The reason this happened now and the way in which it happened was really because of the annexation debate that took place in Israel. We have always been moving closer and closer to Israel. We've had ties on the security side that I think people saw. You saw more Israeli athletes participate in sporting events in the UAE publicly. Israel was approved to participate in Expo 2020, which ultimately got delayed a year. But next year, this time, there's going to be a very public, visible Israeli pavilion in Expo 2020 in Dubai for 6 months. These things were happening not by accident. These were not a series of coincidences. This was a deliberate strategy of moving closer towards Israel. There was a poll that was done in the UAE just with young Emiratis right after the Abraham Accords were announced. And these were only 18 to 24-year-olds, right? They asked them, do you support or oppose the Abraham Accords? I don't think you can, if I asked you to guess the number of approval or the approval rating for this among young Emiratis, I don't think you'd be able to guess it. You want to try?
The approval rating, I would say 75%.
89% among 18 to 24-year-old young Emiratis think this is a good move. And then the second question was, do you support other countries normalizing with Israel? There was only 2 questions. 91%. 91%. Wow. So if you take politics aside, let's take out Iran, the Palestinian equation, let's take out anything that is political. This is ultimately good for both countries. It's good for stability, it's good for prosperity, it's good for creating jobs, it's good for technology, it's good for COVID research, it's good for our tourism industry. It's good for young Emiratis and Israelis to grow up understanding and believing that they are not adversaries, that they are not enemies.
What do you think needs to happen for other countries to follow the Emiratis' lead?
Like, we jumped in the pool first. And as soon as we jumped in the pool, someone said, hey, look, the pool looks nice. Why don't we give it a try? Bahrain joined, Sudan joined. I can't tell you who's going to come next or when it will happen. But I think it's incumbent upon us, all of us and you and Israel and America, to demonstrate that this experiment was successful.
This is a real genuine desire for friendship between cousins, which unfortunately has been separated for so long. And it seems that major media outlets just don't get it. They don't get why this is so significant. They don't get what's really going on in the region. Why do you think this is? Why don't the major media outlets get it, and why does the Algemeiner seem to be getting it right?
It's very hard for people to admit that they were wrong. It's very hard for people to let go of an entire theory that has been kind of implanted and hardwired in their brains, and all of a sudden we've just demonstrated that this is not absolutely the case. It challenged a lot of people's thinking, And that means people have to admit that their theories of the case have been wrong.
And now, Ambassador, I have a special surprise guest to speak to you and speak to the dinner, my daughter Hannah.
Hi, Ambassador. It is an honor to be here with you tonight. Recently, I wrote an op-ed in the Algemeiner about my experience as an intern in the UAE embassy. Tonight, I wanted to turn the table around and ask you, what was it like as an ambassador to have an Orthodox Jewish intern at the embassy?
So first of all, that article was absolutely amazing. And no, I'm not playing to the crowd here because it's an Algemeiner dinner. But no, I really thought that article was great. And like I told your dad, it's because you're not an ambassador, you're not a politician, you're not a business leader. You're a person who basically articulated your experience in a very genuine, authentic way. And I thought that probably made more of an impact with a lot of people than, a regular diplomat writing what he thought was his view. So I think that people are really looking to the future, looking at opportunities, looking at creating jobs, while some people tend to look backwards and look at ideology and religion. I think that's the fault line that we see in the Middle East. This is the battle of ideas that we have today. And I think we are proudly on the right side of that debate. And I think the Abraham Accords absolutely prove that.
Absolutely. And Ambassador, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for coming to tonight's Algemeiner dinner, especially for creating peace in the Middle East. And it was a great pleasure having you.